Hey y'all, so I'm back. This week I want to talk about childhood trauma. I always try to pick a topic that I feel like anybody watching this can relate to. And I feel like every adult has some type of childhood trauma. And the reason I feel that way is because a lot of what we look for in life is determined by our upbringing. Back in the day, Lil Kim had this reality show, one of the first BET reality TV shows, Countdown to Lockdown. And Mary J. Blige was doing a speech. She was saying a speech for Lil Kim before Kim got locked up. And I'll never forget a part of her speech. Mary J. was like, Lil Kim, our friendship had some issues along the way due to my own thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and suggestions. When she said that, I said, you know what? Every single last person in this world has their own thoughts, ideas, beliefs, morals, values, suggestions, and that all comes from our upbringing. And if we do or don't have a good childhood, some things, some traumatic things that could happen in our childhood could affect our thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and suggestions, but could ultimately have issues with you being friends with someone the way it did with Mary J. and Lil Kim. So I think this was like in 2005 when Lil Kim had that show. But I knew back then, the things I go through in life could ultimately affect me having a good relationship with anybody. So whatever I go through, whether it's from my traumatic childhood or from a bad job or from a bad relationship, I cannot let that affect my relationship that I have with other people. And so the things we endure and witness growing up as children, whether it's good or bad from our parents, some parents, they just have to work. They have to work to provide. And, 5 days out the week, they working more than they're at home. So that could have an effect. I know some of my cousins' friends now, they're raising kids and they work a lot. Even some of my cousins, they work a lot. And, it's the way of the world. You have to work to provide. Hence why I don't have children. Because I told my great grandmother, I want to be able for the first 2, 3 years of my child's life, I want to, if I could only work 20 hours a week, that's all I'm going to do because I want to be there for the first few years to instill all of what I feel like I need to put in my child. Not like, oh, well, I'm at work, so while you at school, I hope y'all learning this. No, I'm going to make sure that when you come home from school, if they didn't teach you what I think you should be learning at this stage, then I'm going to teach you. With my nieces, and my little cousins, I wanted to do my own one special African-American historian for Black History Month. Not just because of what they're teaching you in school, but what we can teach you from the family. But I say that for my own kids. But when we begin life as a child, a lot of the things that we go through and do stay with us. Like me and my sister, we eat peas and beef liver. That's because we ate that at my grandma's house. My mom doesn't eat stuff like that. She might eat liver, but she don't eat peas. Or I don't think she eat lima beans either. But a lot of the stuff that we ate while we were living with our grandma, my mom doesn't eat. And it's part of when you grow up, certain things you used to, especially if you don't try new things. I never ate Brussels sprouts until I started being around the daycare that my niece went to. My niece was eating Brussels sprouts. And Hattie at the daycare said, eat them, your niece eat them. And so I started eating Brussels sprouts. So, as you're a child and you grow up, things that you did as a child, they stay with you. Especially if they're unresolved and you don't do the work to deal with it, especially if it's traumatic. And I know some of y'all probably think, oh, I ain't had no traumatic experience. I didn't have a traumatic experience. You hear the word traumatic and you just think, oh my goodness, so bad. But something as simple as being left home alone one time and you almost started a fire. So now you don't like to cook on the back eye because that was the eye that the fire almost happened on when you were a kid. That's childhood trauma. You're traumatized by that event that occurred and you never really dealt with it. So it could be something as small as almost starting a fire, and then it could be something as bad as being raped or molested. I meet a lot of people, men and women, that's been molested by people in their family or raped, and I feel like that's one of the most traumatic things. Abuse, being abused as a child, mentally, emotionally, physically, and sexually as a child. That's probably one of the most traumatic things that can happen to a kid when their innocence is taken away. You have to be conscious of the broken child inside of someone before you begin to judge them. You know, you never really know unless you've known this person all their life and you just don't care that they don't do the work. Because I have people in my family that I've known all their life. And I don't really give them passes, but I know they've yet to do the work. So it's like I can't expect them to do this when I know they've yet to do the work in that area of that childhood trauma. So the way I deal with people is not really the way a lot of people deal with people, because I'm a very understanding individual. I like to meet people and hear their experiences. That's why it took me a few weeks to do another video, because I've just been meeting people in Houston, you know, building relationships with my family members, or, you know, just digging deeper into relationships and, you know, the meaning of family and the meaning of love. And, you know, just talking to different people, some of my friends from middle school on up, and just new friends. I've just been talking to people and just getting to know them. And a lot of generational curses stem from trauma passed on through generations. And most of it starts as far back as slavery. So it's like when you have stuff happening from your great grandparents, a lot of people don't even want to even think about trying to do the work. But I always, when I talk to people, I always try to let them see how you can change your situation. I feel like a lot of our strength comes from within, and a lot of what we have inside comes from that inner child. So if you did have a bad childhood, of course, it's going to be hard for you to be a happy adult. Not saying it's impossible, because I know it is possible, but I just know it's going to be a little bit more challenging. I know someone that was molested as a kid at an early age, and growing up, she's always just had a kind of, I wouldn't say negative outlook on life, but a lot of things she witnessed have been negative or bad. So she would just always mention the bad things or the negative things. And we finally talked about it, and, you know, that was kind of like the childhood trauma. This is why, you know, you have these outlooks and views on life, because your memory, as far as it date back, it's been traumatic. Society shapes most of our beliefs in the way we think about each other, but I feel like what we go through really makes us who we are. So even if you go through something as a kid, some of my traumatic things, I grew up in a family where even before I was born, a lot of people know my family for selling drugs and stuff like that, or using them, or, you know, just being in the streets, having money, cars, and clothes, and that type of stuff. So by the time I came around and I would start witnessing different, I had uncles that had been in jail before I was born, and it just starting to come home as in, like within the past 5 to 10 years, and I'm 34. So I've had stories of great uncles, my grandma and brothers, like growing up, all 3 of her brothers was locked up. And they didn't start coming home. I think her first brother came home when I was in high school, or maybe my senior year. You know, so I've had relatives that escaped death, that got shot up 9 times, I think, or cousins whose father got killed because they wanted to kill another cousin. Like, I've heard all of these type of stories before the age of 10. So once I am starting to hang out with little kids around the neighborhood and seeing who's the good guys and the bad guys, I don't have nothing to do with no people in the streets. I'm going to school. I'm going to be in advanced all honors classes. I'm going to graduate with a 4.0. I did not high school, but I did college. But the streets wasn't for me. And that was because I was traumatized by the things I heard and witnessed in my family as a child. So when I would go to school, when I would live in some inner city, if you're not from Richmond, you will know about Fairfield Court or Midlothian Village. But a lot of people I went to school with, they did not believe I lived in some of those areas, because it was like, you don't look like it, you don't act like it, you don't dress like it. I'm like, I know. That's the point. You don't have to look and act like where you're from. And even now as an adult, I realize that is a part of my childhood trauma. I don't leave the house until I feel like I like the way I look from head to toe. I don't like spots on my clothes. Like, a spot on my shirt would drive me so crazy. I was doing laundry and I can't get this little white stain out this white shirt. I went over tonight and it's driving me insane. Like, small stuff like that. But my grandma, my great grandma, she's always been big on clothes and fashion and stuff. So she's always been shady too. So I never really paid her no mind. But a couple of months ago, she talked about my hairline. And At first, I joke and I brushed off because that's my grandma. I always expect her to say something shady. And then when she saw me again recently, she was like, "Oh, I like your hair. How you get the little ringlets and stuff, la da la da." So now when I come back to Houston, I'm getting ready and I be doing my hair and stuff. My grandma be popping in my mind. And I said, what the hell am I think? Oh, because she talked about my hairline and then she talked about my curls. So that's a part of my trauma, making sure that I look a certain way that would get the proof of my grandma. Take that off. What you doing? Come here, fix your hair. Or where you think you're going out the house? Like, that even is a part of my childhood trauma. So now I'm conscious of, let me make sure I do my hair this way because it gets grandma's approval. So you might think childhood trauma has to be the extreme of a rape or molestation, but it could just be something with being Wendy Williams. Her parents used to make her not eat a lot of food. They'd be like, yeah, you only need one piece of chicken a night. Or yeah, you shouldn't be eating that bread. That shit traumatized her as an adult. Oh, I hope that whatever she's dealing with, she gets through that. But I feel like childhood trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder goes hand in hand. And a lot of people don't even think like, a lot of y'all probably think y'all don't have any childhood trauma, but you do. A lot of y'all probably think y'all don't have PTSD, but you do. When you be in car accidents and then you start back in on the road and you kind of hesitant about how you drive and where you drive, that's a part of PTSD. Drama, like family drama. I have a lot of cousins that's like, I can't do no family drama. Get me out of this. Get me from around this. That's because when they've been around family drama, it could eventually led to them doing time in jail. So their post-traumatic stress disorder is like, I can't be around this fights. I think growing up in just a few fights that I had been in high school and stuff, and even a little 2 or 3 that I had as an adult, I have a little PTSD with, because when I'm in public places like the airport, I'm always ready. I'm always ready to fight. I remember one time I was walking in the airport and I think my little carry-on bag had like skipped the beat or skipped the towel or something. And I thought it was somebody kicking my back. So, I'm turning around like, who the fuck? And I was like, you need to calm down. That's just the floor. And I'm like, why am I always on edge when I'm out in a public place? That's because I can't trust y'all people out here in these streets. So I'm always ready, like, don't ever walk up on me. Don't ever walk up on me. Don't ever try to be friendly to me. If I don't know you, because in my mind, I'm ready to fight. And I know that's a part of PTSD, especially in with all that's going on in the world. You can't go to grocery stores. You can't go to church. You can't go to movie theaters without crazy people wanting to shoot up some places. But different encounters with the law. I remember one time I had got pulled over. It was my little cousin's prom night. And I had told the police officers, I was still at Virginia State, I told them, look, I'm a 4.0 GPA having honor student at Virginia State. Don't y'all look at me, because Mike Brown had just got killed. He was his soul. I said, but don't y'all look at me like another hoodlum. That's another thing from childhood trauma. This lady at my church when I was a kid, I had a big afro, and I took my hair out Saturday morning before choir practice to get my hair braided after choir practice, and she gonna say to me, I look like a hoodlum. That mess made my grandma so mad. So even stuff like that was a little childhood traumatic, because anytime I hear that word hoodlum, I think about, I ain't gonna say her name, but then I always think about that lady from the church who said I looked like a hoodlum. But so I said that to the police, like, don't y'all stereotype me as one of these childhood trauma, just all the stories that I've heard and even the things that I've seen growing up. Shoot. A lot of people be talking about, like, when they grow up, they struggle having to eat sugar sandwiches and syrup sandwiches. We ain't never had to eat no stuff like that, because shit, push come to shove, we was getting food stamps. So a nigga ain't never had to eat no struggle food. But bills then got cut off, lights and stuff like that, gas, and having to boil water on the stove and stuff like that. So that is another reason why I don't have kids yet, because I don't want to, even though none of my bills have never been cut off. That is another part of childhood trauma. I have never been late on a bill. I be hearing people about putting money on their lights. Putting money on your lights. I'm paying that bitch in whole. It's a bill and it's due. That bill is getting due. Done and paid for. I'm not putting nothing on it. Pay it in all. Yeah, I don't do that. I don't be late on nothing. All my bills have to get paid. If I can't, I've been in this apartment for a whole year. I ain't had Wi-Fi because my Xfinity stuff connected to the neighbors. That's one less bill I have to worry about. I do not live beyond my means. I like my little Impala. I drive as my third Impala. I don't need no Benz and I don't need no BMW until I can afford it. Because growing up and seeing things like that could traumatize me as a kid. My mom didn't have her she had a car when she was like 18, 19, but I was like 3 or 4, but she didn't have like, and she had another car for like a year or two, but her car that she ended up keeping and owning, she didn't get that till me and my sister had cars as seniors in high school. So we didn't grow up with the car. That's why I always make sure I have a car from the moment I got my learners and got my license and graduated high school, saved up, worked in McDonald's, saved up 1,200, put a down payment on the grand and helped me pay my condo. I always make sure I have a car because I watched my mama not have a car for too long. So that's a part of childhood trauma. So it's not always something like, oh, nothing bad or traumatic never happened to me. It could just be certain stuff you witness to make you not want to go through certain things or make you fearful of certain things. One of my cousins used to have nightmares as a kid about snakes and bugs and stuff like that. And to this day, she's still petrified of all type of insects, even ants and spiders and stuff. And now it then rubbed off on her daughter. But that's a part of childhood trauma. Now, if it stays with you, you carry it. The people we date, a lot of the times the people we date, you choose similar. Now, I don't like when they say girls date guys like their dad, because that's not always true. But sometimes you try to find somebody that's the complete opposite of what you used to. When the first 2 girlfriends I did have, I kind of realized that attitude were kind of close to my mom, and I ain't realized that until afterwards. So I do see stuff like that. The places we go, a lot of people don't go to certain places. One of my best friends, she don't really deal with the church. Not saying she don't have a relationship with God, but she just don't deal with the church. So you think she be up in the church? No, because her childhood trauma has caused her to not want to associate with the church at all. And there's nothing wrong. The only time I feel like there's an issue with your childhood trauma is when it's getting in the way of you having effective communication and relationships with those around you that you want to. And if you don't care, then shit, fuck it. But if you do care, work on some of your childhood trauma. Some people just have to stop going to certain places and all, like, just to keep them from childhood trauma. I'm gonna talk about like 2 or 3 little celebrities or that I know. I'm gonna start off with Teak from P Valley because his situation was the most freshest in my mind. When I was watching the most recent episode, um, I kept thinking like, yeah, I don't think I like Teak. He just be doing too much. He too angry. I just, I ain't feeling him. He need to calm down. He need to chill out. But the moment I looked, they show his childhood trauma. I said, oh shoot, I do like him. Poor thing. And I started getting teary-eyed and started feeling sympathetic for him. And you can't really judge people unless you know that childhood trauma. And sometimes you meet people that you really don't vibe with or rock with, but little do you know, if they dealt with that trauma that they're carrying around, you probably would. Someone else, Tamar Braxton, right when Braxton Family Values got Iyanla on there, Tamar revealed that she had been molested. I think, I could be wrong, molested or raped from the ages of 6 to 16 or between the ages of 6 to 16. I could be wrong, and I don't like to put out false information, but something along those lines. And she said her mom didn't really know about it until the producers questioned her about it. And a lot of that, I feel like, is part of why she goes through a lot of the stuff, you know, the wanting to commit suicide, and you know, the stress, and you know, the wild outbursts and stuff like that. Even Mariah, I'm so glad she revealed that she was bipolar a few years ago, because reading her book, you know, she talked about how at 12 years old, her sister put some cocaine on a fingernail and offered it to her. You know, her sister tried to pimp her out as a teenager. And, you know, her brother tried to use her and make money off her and her voice. And a lot of that childhood trauma is now why she calls them ex-brother and ex-sister. And even her mom calling the police on her during the whole glitter debacle. And, you know, making people think she was crazy. She don't call her mom, she calls her mom Patricia. A lot of that is part of her childhood trauma and just things you go through in life as a child. You have to deal with them early on. One of my cousins is pregnant, about to have a baby, and I told her, girl, before you have that baby, whatever issues you have, you know, with your parents or anybody, you know, deal with it now, because I don't want you, as you know, this baby is baking in your oven. I don't want that stuff festering on in your baby and you putting all of that hurt and pain into that baby. You know, so y'all try to deal with y'all childhood trauma, especially while y'all raising children, because y'all children gonna get it. Y'all children gonna feel it and they gonna see it, and they could very well carry on the generational curse, or they just try to break the yoke. yeah, everybody just, no one's perfect, but we can all do better. Good to be back. Y'all have a good week.